With approximately 1 out of every 4 U.S. workers reporting as having a disability, National Organization on Disability is turning to online training to help build accessible and welcoming workplaces for all.
We are here to get this out as widely and as deeply as we possibly can, because ultimately impact is what we measure. That's our bottom line. How many people are taking this training, and how many people as a result are treating their colleagues different, their employees different, and are providing opportunities to people with disabilities to really do their best work.
That's Beth Sirull, CEO of National Organization on Disability. Beth and Chief Operations and Finance Officer Sara Walsh joined DaVinci's Angeline Evans and me to talk about their organization's new EnAble learning platform and how the training is improving the workforce experience for everyone. Next on Powered by Learning.
Powered by Learning is brought to you by DaVinci Interactive. DaVinci's approach to learning is grounded in 30 years of innovation and expertise. We use proven strategies and leading technology to develop solutions that empower learners to improve quality and boost performance. Learn more at davinci.com.
Joining me now is DaVinci Client Solutions Consultant Angeline Evans and our guests from the National Organization on Disability, President and CEO Beth Sirull and Chief Operating Officer Sara Walsh. Welcome to Powered by Learning.
Thank you both for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having us. We're excited to be here.
Yes, thank you. Looking forward to the conversation.
We are too, Sara and Beth. Thank you. For those who may not be familiar with your organization, Beth, explain a little bit about what the National Organization on Disability is all about.
So the National Organization on Disability is working towards the day when every person with a disability, regardless of whether that disability is a physical disability, a mental health issue, a neurodivergence, we are working towards the day when every person with a disability has access to a quality job that enables them to realize their full potential and enables them to be compensated fairly for their efforts. And we work on what I would call the demand side. That is, we work with corporations and other employers to ensure that their talent acquisition processes and their talent managing processes are accommodating and inclusive of people with disabilities. And it's important right off the bat to recognize when you look at physical disabilities, neurodivergence, and mental health, something approximating 40% of the workforce is affected by disability. And so when you talk about disability inclusion, you're really talking about enabling your workforce to be maximally productive and to hire the best people and leverage them for the best impact on your organization. And so we do that through training and education, consulting, thought leadership, storytelling, and as you both know, a lot having to do with training, which is how we've become involved with DaVinci. We do feel strongly that disability inclusion in the employment arena, in organizations, it has to infiltrate the whole organization. And so scaling that knowledge and that training to enable everybody to understand disability is really critical to our mission.
And Beth, just to level set for our listeners who may not be aware, disability doesn't just mean the disabilities we see. When you're counting those numbers of how many people in the workforce have a disability, it goes way beyond what we see as a disability.
Right. And that's why I say it might be a physical disability, some of which are visible. If somebody is deaf or hard of hearing or blind or low vision, or someone who uses a wheelchair or a cane or that's very physically obvious, but there are many physical disabilities, many diseases, diabetes and Crohn's and cancer and many, many physical disabilities that are not visible. And then, of course, mental health disabilities and neurodivergence are not visible. The majority of disabilities, no one can see. And that's why we say you may not realize that people you're working with have a disability, and you yourself may be somebody with a disability who never really identified as such, because historically in the United States, when people hear disability, they think wheelchair. And so when someone is struggling with a major depressive disorder, or someone is on the spectrum or ADHD, they may not realize that that is in effect a disability, and that there are very legitimate accommodations that will help them do their work better and will enable their employer to leverage their skills. I mean, it's a win-win for the employer and for the employee.
Absolutely. I mean, especially because you have to think too, sometimes employers don't even know where an employee might be dealing with a disability, even a temporary one. So
100%.
making sure you're inclusive right out of the gate, you're going to have that win on both sides.
The disclosure rate for people with disabilities is much lower than the actual rate. And that, generally has to do with that people are afraid to stand up and say, I have this issue, like I need to see my psychiatrist during business hours twice a month because I need my meds, or I need certain things because I'm ADHD. People are afraid of the stigma. And in many cases, they've seen people who have a visible disability be treated differently. And they're going to go, I don't want to be included. I don't want to go there. When in fact, for an employer to just openly be inclusive of people with disabilities from the get-go enables them to hire the best people and leverage them for, the best outcomes. I'll just throw some data out there really quickly. The National Organization on Disability has collected data from employers for many years, and we have a data set of 257 primarily large, but not exclusively large companies over a 4-year period. And every company in the data set contributed data more than once so that we can see changes over time. And what we find is that companies that fully integrate disability inclusion into their operations, as you would expect, they will hire twice as many people with disabilities as firms that have not integrated disability inclusion. What is so striking is that those same companies, they'll hire 2 times as many people with disabilities, but they'll promote 5 times as many people with disabilities. And what that says is when you are disability inclusive, you are hiring the best people and you are enabling them to succeed and have the best impact on your business. And we take promotions as a proxy for an impactful employee, because if they're not a positively impactful employee, they don't get promoted. And so we really see the business benefits. Years ago, disability inclusion was considered sort of a nice to have and something that corporate foundations funded, and that was philanthropy and the like. And now we really see that this is a business imperative. It affects too much of the workforce. No business, no employer can be successful if they are ignoring the needs of 40% of their workforce.
Absolutely. That's why training and education are so important.
You got it.
Yeah, those are incredible statistics. So I know the Da Vinci team has been so honored to partner with the NOD team on building the EnAble learning platform, which is a new way for organizations and individuals to access NOD's training on demand. So I want to talk more about that today with our listeners. And so let's start by just talking about what inspired the idea, or if there were any needs or gaps that it's really designed to address.
Yeah, thanks for that question, Angeline. NOD has been around for almost 40 years, and we have long been a leader in delivering instructor-led in-person training around topics related to the intersection of people with disabilities and the workforce. We have delivered instructor-led training to Fortune 500 companies, and we have some of the foremost content experts on our team. But what we realize, especially in a post-COVID world, is that in-person training where you, especially in industries with frontline workers, industries like manufacturing and healthcare and retail, that it's just really not feasible to take people off the floor. There's just a huge cost for organizations to always have this training be delivered in person. And so as we see kind of the world change towards more remote work, towards more virtual training, we realized that we really needed to provide a product that enhanced access to this sort of training. As Beth mentioned, the business imperatives are clear, but we really wanted to provide a product that was scalable and that really could drive impact. We are really driven by impact. We're a nonprofit. That's our number one goal. And so having a product that is available on demand, that is customizable, that can be done in bite-sized chunks, we realized that we'd be able to reach a much larger audience.
I think the other thing that this enables us to do is to serve businesses of all sizes, that many of the smaller employers cannot afford to hire in-person trainers, even virtually. It's just too expensive. And whereas when you go with the on-demand training, you buy it per seat, per licensed seat, and people can do it in their own time. And so it's more easily distributed and it's more affordable. And, about half the workforce in the United States works for small business or smaller organizations. And we need to make sure that people with disabilities are successful in those organizations as well as in the name brand corporations that we all know and love. And so this enables us to fill the gap that Sara's identifying in terms of getting it out into large corporations, but it also enables us to provide this to smaller organizations.
It's an incredible value that I think all of the organizations are going to see. So when we take in-person training and bring it to online training, it's a process. What did you want to make sure you got right in the digital version, or what were you nervous about? Because historically you were delivering this in person.
Yeah, that's a great question. And look, there are still benefits to in-person. I think we all know that, even though we've all been living in a remote and virtual environment for a long time, we know that there are still benefits to having that face-to-face interaction. However, we believed that we could create a training in partnership with DaVinci that replicated those benefits. So one of those being the training has to be engaging. We are not interested in providing training that is boring, that's compliance oriented, that's just a click through, right? We've all been there. We've all had those kind of trainings in our workplace. We really wanted it to be engaging and relevant. Those are kind of the two most important things. It has to be engaging. So that means multimedia, different types of video styles, questions, knowledge checks along the way, things that make sure that participants are following along, and then making sure the content is relevant. So we, again, this comes from our expertise of just being uniquely positioned in this field and working for so long with corporations. We understand what businesses care about. And that can change over time, and our ability to be nimble and to add content that is hyper relevant to what businesses are facing right now. I think that's a key issue. And the final thing that I'll say in terms of a differentiation is, we have scoured all kinds of training platforms from big to small. And what you'll find with disability related content is that if it exists at all, it is highly surface level. So most disability content is either very compliance oriented or just highly surface level. And so our goal is to really bring practical tools for managers in particular to understand how to manage a workforce that, like Beth said, probably 40% at least have disabilities. So we want it to be practical, we want the content to be relevant, and we want the delivery method to be highly engaging.
So something we look at DaVinci, that was a wonderful explanation, Sara, is when you take that online training or the in-person training and you're scaling it to that broader audience for self-paced learning, it can sometimes be difficult to maintain the integrity of your content because you're trying to reach everyone, right? You're not targeting the organization that you're specifically delivering that in-person training to. I'd love to hear from your perspective and your experience in this process. How did you feel that was accomplished?
I'll take that one. DaVinci was asked a lot of really good questions along the way that really forced us to think about, what are we really trying to get across here? one of the things about in-person training, is that you have the people can speak their feelings, and in the modules have opportunities for people to really type in their feedback. And we can provide to companies or departments that are interested kind of a discussion guide for them to get together afterwards and really talk about that, so that it can have some of those same team building element to it if an organization wants to use it that way. And as Sara said, there's a lot of different kinds of video, different kinds of questions, opportunities to test knowledge so that it is really engaging. Some of it is video and some of it is animation. You're kind of drawn into it. When you do the video or the animation, you're simulating real world experiences that people can relate to. And then they can type in and share how that is for them. And then that gets a lot of the in-person part. I do think, and we will, we encourage companies to use the opportunity to get people together as 10 or 15 people and have a department and have a team building conversation, because it is an opportunity for people to really share their vulnerabilities. And that's what builds trust and psychological safety in a workplace. And any opportunity for people, especially leaders, to say, I did this training and this is how it really impacted me and this is how I feel, that's going to build a lot of trust with people on the team. And so I think that combination of elements, it being engaging, opportunity for people to provide feedback, and then the opportunity for organizations, even colleagues, to just go out to lunch and share it, really completes that circle. I don't know, Sara, do you want to add anything on that?
No, I think that's right. I think, the training was built in a way to encourage discussion outside of the trainings. Like for me personally, the best trainings I've ever taken are the ones that I talked about with my colleagues afterward. And so we really are trying to encourage that engagement and just by having thought-provoking content that feels applicable to what you're doing every day.
Right. And it also, we hope those conversations empower people to stand up and say, I could really use X. And, the average accommodation costs like $250, very, very inexpensive. These are not monetary issues, not financial issues. They're sometimes organizational or physical arrangement of furniture and offices and placement and schedule and agendas and just ways that meetings are conducted, things that are good for everybody and really tend to be free, can really add to the inclusive environment in an organization for everybody. And we haven't noted yet, which we should, disability is one of those things that does not discriminate. When you work in disability inclusion, you're looking at issues of gender and issues of race and sexual orientation and every other kind of diversity, because disability, it impacts all of us. There's a lot of diversity within the disability community.
It's also a community that you can join in any time in your life, right. Unexpectedly sometimes, right? Mm-hmm. Like things can happen in your life and, all of a sudden you find yourself in a position of having a different type of need than other people.
Right. And often even, people who have one kind of disability. I think on my own life experience, I came to the disability space in, through the mental health and neurodiversity world, having had significant mental health issues of my own and having a son who is neurodivergent and also has struggled with mental health issues. But here I am, I'm getting older and I'm aging into some disabilities. And I can't say it's fun, but it happens to most of us eventually. And people are staying in the workforce longer. It is becoming a bigger and bigger issue in the workforce.
And the online modules I love how you explain this. They're not meant to be taken in silos. They are cohort based for teams so that you can have that discussion, because that is when the most meaningful moments happen. And it is a community and it is for everyone, even if you don't identify as having a disability right now. It's an important conversation and you very likely know someone that has a disability firsthand. As folks have been taking the modules, have you gathered any early feedback or anything you've been hearing so far?
It is early feedback because, as you know, we are still in development.
Sure.
I was meaning to tell you all this separately. I was on a call last week with a vice president of learning and development for a major professional services organization, a professional employment, a PEO, a professional employment organization, large company that serves employers across the country. And they're looking at including this in their catalog, our EnAble Learning in their catalog of courses. And the first thing the VP of Learning and Development said to me was, "Your instructional design is excellent." She said, "It's great."
That's so great.
You said, I did a couple of the modules and the quality is there. So that was wonderful.
Thanks for sharing that. That's great.
Yeah.
And then, other people are just, it's fun and cute and engaging and informative and short. So like, if you're, you don't have to do an hour course all at one time. There are modules. You can use you could be on the train with your earbuds on your phone and go through a 10-minute module on your way home or on your way to work or before you go to bed at night or, something like that. And it's not a stressful undertaking or anything like that. It's kind of entertaining. And certainly engaging, and you can do it on your mobile device, which just means that it is truly on demand. So we envision employers saying, "Hey, we need everybody to do this, by 30 days from now, and then we're going to have a conversation, or in a department or something like that." And there, as Sara said, there's just not a lot out there that's really looking at disability inclusion, at disability awareness, at mental health, at neurodivergence, at issues. AI is the big thing. There are a lot of disability inclusion issues in making sure there's no bias in AI and making sure that it is accessible to everyone.
Beth, there are probably a lot of organizations listening who are thinking we need something like this, but they don't know where to start. What advice would you give to organizations about the importance of this training and the affordability of it too, for people who might be concerned they can't afford something like this?
It is per seat. And so depending on how many seats you're buying, it ranges from $25 to $50 a seat. So, if you're a 10-person small business, that's $500. That's pretty doable. Or if you're a department in a large corporation and you want to check it out for your team, and then, we obviously want you to share that with everyone else in your organization, but you can start very small. So it's very affordable. The National Organization on Disability is a nonprofit organization. We are kind of a nonprofit professional services firm. Our clients are our businesses and other employers. But we're here to maximize our impact within the constraints that we have to be financially self-sufficient. So we can't give it away because we got to pay you guys, and we got to pay our team. Team needs compute. We have overhead, we have expenses. But within the constraint of that, we have to be financially self-sufficient. We are here to get this out as widely and as deeply as we possibly can, because ultimately impact is what we measure. That's our bottom line. Our bottom line is an impact bottom line. How many people are taking this training, and how many people as a result are treating their colleagues different, their employees different, and are providing opportunities to people with disabilities to really do their best work.
I am so excited about all of these modules. Would you mind walking us through some of the topics that you covered?
Yes, absolutely. So we are launching EnAble Learning with 4 topics initially. And like I said, we definitely plan to roll out more, and we plan to adjust based on what issues businesses are facing at the time. But the first 4 topics are, the first one is just kind of a disability inclusion, disability awareness 101 course. So this is just really basic for folks who haven't been in this world before. And I can tell you, I've worked in the public sector a long time. I've done a lot of trainings on a variety of things like race and gender, and socioeconomic status. And when I came to National Organization on Disability, some of the most basic concepts were brand new to me. So while that first course is basic, it is still not information that is widely known. So it's really, really super critical. The second course is around mental health in the workplace and managing team members in the age of rising mental health challenges. This is so critical. I mean, we have seen rates of mental health challenges skyrocket, especially post-COVID, especially for subpopulations like frontline workers. And this course is really targeted at managers and helping them have tools and resources to be able to manage their teams effectively and to increase productivity. Mental health challenges can be a large driver of what's called presenteeism and absenteeism as well. The third course is around neurodiversity and managing neurodiverse employees. This is a huge topic for organizations right now. We see lots of large companies like consulting firms or accounting firms specifically launching programs for neurodiverse employees. So this can be a huge asset to those sorts of efforts. And then the last one is around digital accessibility. Again, just really relevant topic. A lot of states are rolling out rules for organizations to abide by when it comes to digital accessibility. And companies just don't have the expertise or the knowledge to understand how digital accessibility impacts employees with disabilities on a day-to-day basis. It goes beyond just, providing alt text on a picture. There's just some real strategies you can implement that can make your employees more productive.
It absolutely does. And all of the modules and the platform are built for accessibility. So along with what Beth mentioned, that you can access them anywhere because they are shorter in format, and you can access them on the train or wherever you're located. They're programmed and developed for accessibility, following the best practices to be compliant. And we can link to it in this episode. We've done an episode in the past that details out all of the accessibility things you need to keep in mind when you're building online learning or a digital tool. And it's just so important. Even if you're not necessarily taking disability training like we're discussing here, it's so important that what you're putting out there as learning and development professionals is fully accessible for any of your learners that are going to be accessing it.
Angeline, in addition to that sheet that we'll put a link in the show notes, of course, we'll also put a link to more information about the training that's offered through the National Organization on Disability in case any of our listeners want to learn more.
Awesome. And also, I had a long career in nonprofit work. NOD is the third nonprofit that I'm the chief executive of. And I have struggled with mental health issues my whole life. And it really held me back early in my career. And I would never have stood up at work and said, hey, I got to go, blah, 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 blah. The Disability 101 that Sara was talking about, what I've seen as I've come to NOD is that for people who maybe have lived with a physical disability all their life, but really have not experienced neurodiversity or experienced significant mental health challenges, they're learning from me and I'm learning from them. And even if you have a disability and you feel like you're well-versed in disability, the odds are you're not well-versed in every disability or every kind of disability. And so there really is value in that Diversity 101, no matter who you are. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, the specific courses are very important. And we look forward to adding more courses to it in the future. And, Sara and I have both talked about, before we came to NOD, we had never worked with a blind or low vision colleague. And now our colleague in the C-suite of NOD is blind. And we have both said, wow, wouldn't it have just been nice if I could have had a 15-minute little tutorial on on working with somebody who is vision impaired, to just understand what to do and what not to do. And so we do sort of envision shorter disability specific courses. We envision looking at specific employment issues around disability and, different aspects of, a deep dive on accommodations, a deep dive on inclusive hiring, on how to write an inclusive job description, which really lends itself to skills-based hiring, which is a very big movement now that we really support. As when you're looking at someone really for the skills that they have, whether or not they use a wheelchair or they have, pick your disease, is irrelevant. And so we're really looking forward to getting more feedback from people as they take the courses and as they use the platform, and then really seeing where the next hot topics are. And the only other thing I really want to add for your listeners, if you are part of a large corporation, we are licensing the content for you as not by seat, but as the courses. All 4 courses can be licensed for a company's own an internal learning management system. And then if you are a smaller business or a smaller organization, you can use our learning management system and just buy X number of seats. And of course, within large corporations, if you just want to try it before you recommend to your training and development department that they bring it in for your internal LMS, you can access it on a per seat basis on our LMS. So we've really designed it so no matter where you are as an employer, where you fit on the employment spectrum, large, small, public, private, nonprofit, there's a way for you to access this material affordably.
And very appropriately, I would say that sounds very inclusive and accommodating for all of you.
We are trying
for people who
very
need
hard.
Training. So.
Yes, we are trying very hard. That is our goal.
Well, this was wonderful to hear the two of you talk about this. And Angeline, I know you and the team have been working hard with National Organization on Disability. And I'm excited to see it all rolled out and to see what comes in the next steps in the future.
Awesome.
Yep.
Thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
My thanks to DaVinci's Angeline Evans and our guests, Beth Sirull and Sara Walsh from National Organization on Disability. If you have an idea for a topic or guest, please reach out to us at poweredbylearning@davinci.com. And don't forget that you can subscribe to Powered by Learning wherever you listen to your podcasts.